It was the night of November 13th, 2022, in the quiet college town of Moscow, Idaho. A Sunday night like any other, the streets were calm, and the University of Idaho campus was settling into its usual rhythm. For students, Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernadal, and Ethan Chapin were enjoying what seemed like an ordinary evening. They were young, vibrant, and full of dreams. Madison and Kaylee, lifelong best friends, had plans for their future and were known for their infectious energy. Xana, only 20, was described as creative and fun-loving, while Ethan, her boyfriend, was a triplet, remembered by friends for his kindness and love for adventure. Together, they represented the heart of campus life, until everything changed in a single night. By the morning of November 13th, that off-campus house on King Road became a scene of horror. All 4 students were brutally stabbed to death while they slept. The crime was so violent and shocking that it sent a wave of terror across the nation. Parents withdrew their children from classes, students fled campus, and the town of Moscow became gripped by fear. Who could have done this and why? In those early days, police released very little information. There were no signs of forced entry, no murder weapon found, and no clear suspects. Rumors swirled online, theories spread, and the community demanded answers. For many, it felt like living inside a nightmare, a ghost story made real. But behind the scenes, investigators were working tirelessly, piecing together a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. The breakthrough came from the smallest of details. At the crime scene, detectives discover a knife sheathed near one of the victims. On that sheath was a trace of DNA, invisible to the eye, but powerful in what it revealed. Meanwhile, surveillance footage from the neighborhood captured a white Hyundai Elantra circling the area multiple times on the night of the murders. Then came the cell phone records. Investigators discovered that the same man's phone had pinged near the victim's home on multiple occasions, including the night of the murders. He had even returned to the area hours later, as if revisiting the scene of his crime. All of these threads began pointing toward one man, Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology PhD student at Washington State University, living just miles from the victims. The irony was chilling. Kohberger had devoted his academic life to studying criminal behavior, analyzing how murderers think, how they plan, and how they act. He had once written in a research project asking criminals to share their thought processes during crimes. Yet now, investigators believed he had become the very subject he was so obsessed with. In December 2022, a month and a half after the murders, Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. The FBI and police had tracked him across states, collecting trash from his family's home to match DNA with the crime scene evidence. The match was undeniable. Along with the phone records, surveillance footage, and eyewitness reports of his car, the case against him grew stronger by the day. But still, one haunting question lingered. Why? What could possibly drive a criminology student to murder 4 innocent people in cold blood? Authorities revealed no signs of personal connection between Kohberger and the victims. Was it an obsession? A twisted fascination? A desire to prove himself smarter than the system? To this day, no clear motive has ever been revealed. In 2025, Kohberger finally confessed, accepting a plea deal that spared him the death penalty but sentenced him to 4 consecutive life terms in prison. For the victims' families, it was a bittersweet moment, justice delivered, but without the answers they craved. One parent described it as a lifetime of pain with no explanation. The trial and confession brought more questions than closure. How could someone so focused on understanding crime commit one so heinous? What does it say about the thin line between curiosity and darkness? And what about the victims? Their laughter, their friendships, their futures, all stolen in one night. Today, the University of Idaho murders are remembered as one of the darkest crimes in modern American history. A case that shattered a community, horrified a nation, and left families with wounds that may never fully heal. Madison, Kaylee, Xana, Ethan. 4 names that should be remembered not for how their lives ended, but for how they lived, with love, hope, and possibility. This story is not just about a killer. It is about the fragility of life, the shock of evil hidden in plain sight, and the grief of families who will never stop asking why. The house where the murders took place has since been torn down, but the memories remain. And with them, a reminder, even in the safest places, darkness can strike when we least expect it.